Hey there, welcome back. Now in this lecture, let us talk about JWT authentication. Now this is an important topic if you want to authenticate or if you want to integrate this authentication with JavaScript framework. So there are chances that you are using Python, Django and Django REST Framework as your backend, and then you are using JavaScript along with a framework on frontend. It can be Angular, React or VueJS. And you want to use authentication through JWT, which is JSON Web Token. Now in the previous lecture we discussed about token authentication, which is also very popular and mainly used for mobile applications, desktop application and lot more. So in this lecture let us cover this one. Now this lecture is optional. Maybe there are chances that you are satisfied with token authentication and don't want to touch this topic. You can directly jump onto the next topic. You can skip this complete JWT authentication and there will be no difference in code. Whatever the changes we are going to do in this particular lecture is going to remain separate. It's an important topic, but there are chances that you don't want to cover it. Now let us get back to this topic. The first thing I want to mention is this JWT.io, which is the most important website for this tutorial, and make sure to just jump onto this introduction. This will give you a lot of things in detail about what we are going to do. No, you don't have to understand everything. This is just a reading material that I am recommending. So you want to understand things behind the scene. So this will give you a good read and it's pretty simple. We are going to discuss everything in this lecture, but maybe you want to read, you want to understand things in detail. This will give you a better idea. Once that is done, we need to talk about simple JWT. So this is the package that we are going to use to implement JSON Web Token authentication. So if you want more information, just get into API guide, click on authentication, and this is the documentation which is referred by Django REST Framework itself. There are many simple JWT authentication. Most of them are going to work same. The major difference is this requirement. So make sure you are using either Python 3.7, 3.8 or 3.9. If you are using an older version of Python, make sure to check out an older version of simple JWT. Or just search about simple JWT. There are many similar packages which are going to work fine. So that's it. That's the first thing. Now let me get on to the installation part. Scroll down a bit, click on installation. And here we are going to get a package and we just need to install it. So let me open my CMD or terminal. And here we just need to install it directly. So pip install Django REST Framework _ simple JWT. Now remember, this is a concept. JWT itself is a concept which is common if you are implementing with Node.js or if you are implementing with any other framework of any language. The concept is going to remain same. There are chances that the way of writing these things, the way of including their setting is different, but the concept of token is going to remain same. Now once that is done, our package is installed. Make sure you are installing everything inside your virtual environment. Now once this is done, we need to add this in our settings. So if you want to add them into global setting, just jump onto your main project. This is main project directory inside which I have settings.py. Let me scroll down. Now here currently we are using token authentication and earlier we used basic authentication. So what I'm going to do is let me just keep them together and remove this one first. Comment this one, also comment this one, and here let me add the JWT authentication part. This looks fine to me. So now instead of token authentication, we are using JWT authentication. So every time we are going to send a request through Postman, we have to include some information regarding JWT and we don't need to carry information for token like we did in earlier lecture. So this is done, which is the first part. Now let me jump back here. Now here we need to integrate things. So earlier we were using specific URLs to log in, we were using specific URLs to log out because we were dealing with tokens. So if I jump onto my user app inside which I have my own URLs. Now these URLs were part to login information, to register as well as to log out, but they were using token authentication. Let me comment them all and create new URLs. So let me work with login first. All I have to do is use these URL patterns. Or let me keep it as it is, but we are not going to utilize them. So I'm going to use these two URL patterns. Now here you might think, okay, there is something like token and there is something like refresh. Okay, this is good, but let me also import their classes, which is token obtain pair view as well as token refresh pair view. So let me get this one. It's a token refresh view and import it here. This looks fine to me. So we did all the basic settings which were mentioned by this documentation. But let us understand what happened behind the scene. So if I open this Blackboard again and let me start things with my handwriting. So first thing I'm going to talk about is the URLs, all the process that happened behind the scene and all the important terms. So what we are going to do is we are going to send a request for login. So suppose this is our login or any other page where we are collecting our username as well as password. So we take this information through user and send a request on the desired URL. In this case, we are going to use this URL. Now this URL is going to generate token, but here you see the word pair. The reason behind this is we are going to generate two tokens. The first one is going to be access token. I'm going to call it as AT, and the second one is going to be refresh token, and I'm going to call this as RT. Now why these two tokens? Because there is some time validity with each one of them. So this is known as short-term token and this is known as long-term token. So as soon as we send a request, we are going to get a response in the form of access token and refresh token. So if you remember earlier with token authentication, we used to carry this token with every request. That means in our header, we need to carry our token in the previous topic itself. Now we need to carry this access token. But the thing is, this access token by default lives only for 5 minutes. That means after 5 minutes, this token will automatically get destroyed. And to regenerate this access token, we need to use this refresh token. I know this might get confusing, but this refresh token by default is valid for 24 hours. And the most important thing is these tokens are generated automatically and they are not stored in our database. So if I jump here, get onto my home and okay, I need to first run my server. Now there is no such field like tokens for this JWT. This JWT is using some algorithm to create unique tokens with our information. That's the most basic definition. So that means we don't need to send requests to our database to verify this token. Our system is going to verify it automatically. So we are not going to jump onto database every time to check if the token is valid or not. Because the token is created according to user information. So this is something really important and we are not dependent on database. The second thing is the load on database is decreased because we are not sending request for each authentication. We are not sending requests for each request call itself. So that's the first topic, which is we log in and JWT is going to generate these two tokens and going to return us. That is on our client side. Now on our client side, we are going to store them into local storage. So we are going to carry both of them. And this is going to live for 5 minutes and this is going to live for 24 hours. We can customize it and configure for longer times. But why do we prefer these settings? Because there is some information stored or carried or cached with access token itself. We'll be talking about this in a while. So this access token is destroyed automatically in 5 minutes and then we use this refresh token again automatically. We use this refresh token to regenerate this access token and we keep on following this. And you don't have to worry much because on client side it is stored through local storage. So this was the first part that we need to understand. Now the second part is the token structure, which is pretty unique. So if I just jump onto this jwt.io, if I scroll down a bit, here you will see a sample token. So this token is divided into three parts. The first part is header. The second part is going to be our payload, or you can say some data. And the third part is signature, which is how this token is encoded. It has some information regarding signature which help us to securely validate the token. So this is the third part, which is pretty important also. Now if I change anything with this token, it is going to be ignored and you are going to get a message as invalid signature. If anything gets edited with this token, it will be invalid signatured. So we need to take care about this. That was the second point, that is how our token works. So we have header part, then we have payload part, and then we have signature. This is pretty simple. Now let's talk about the third topic, that how we are going to practice it or how we can use it. Like for token authentication, we use Postman. Can we use this JWT directly on our browser? Nope. You either need Postman, that is the best recommendation by my side, or you can use terminal and install HTTP PI, which is again going to be extra task. But I prefer Postman because it's industry standard tool. So we are going to follow something similar. That's all for this lecture. Now in the next lecture, let us start our journey, create this token with the help of this link, refresh token, access information in our views, and then do a lot more stuff. I hope this lecture was helpful. Now in the next lecture, let us continue everything through implementation. I hope you got the basic information regarding this JWT authentication. Thank you for following, and in the next lecture, let us work on it.